Getting started here this morning. Good morning. Good morning. Faith is here. Mary Weather finds us here. BL Large. Good morning, Gwen. Ms. Zenbai is here. So I got down here to get started and figured out that my um, iPad was low battery. So I had to try and grab some cords and everything so it won't die on me. Welcome in. So it's one of those days where batteries are going to die, I guess. How many of you have had that happen where you're even plugged in, some people's phones, whatnot, sucks your battery so dry that, some people have a problem with that. Welcome in. Yes, it does. So, um, and the problem is that phones can only take so much being plugged in all the time before your battery kind of gets fried. So it is a problem that you have to kind of figure out. Reptile guys here, welcome in. Thanks everyone for joining. And sorry I got started a little bit late. So tell me what you have going on. I heard last week was kind of a hard, tough week for a lot of people. Um, I think it was the week before school starts for most people, kind of mad dash to get everything done before school starts. Because even people who don't have kids in school, it's kind of the restart to, okay, summer's over, got to get back to whatever else we're doing and, you know, get some things ready for fall. And people were out doing fall yard cleanup and other things. So kind of a tough week. Hopefully this week is a little better. And then after Labor Day, almost everybody's, finally back in school, including college. So yeah. So my daughter moves into her dorm tomorrow. My youngest, so we're gonna be empty nesters officially starting tomorrow, which is weird. Very strange. Um, so our kids are kind of spread out. We have a 29-year-old, a 26-year-old, or 25-year-old, 25, and an 18-year-old. And so we've had kids in the house for a long time. They're all now officially out. So yeah, very exciting for our daughter. She's was a very, very good student, got full ride scholarships and is a straight A student and she's going to do well. And so, yeah, so excited for her to kind of get out on her own and learn, what it's like to be without mom and dad making all the decisions. Although she was pretty independent for a long time, but, just she still was very reliable on us for a lot of things. So, yeah. And thank you. It is exciting. And it's an exciting time. We have our first granddaughter and first grandchild, and that's exciting. We're loving that, and we get to watch her a lot and participate in her growing up because they live really close, which is awesome. So she just turned 1 in June. So very cool. So what does everybody enough about me? What does everybody else have going on? What's exciting in your lives, outside of whatnot? We have to always remember that we all have lives that, um, are going on in addition to whatever we're doing here. And a lot of people still working full time or part time and trying to do whatnot, trying to grow your business. And so I know it's, everything in your lives that makes it sometimes difficult to navigate everything you have going on. Welcome, Frizzy with Compassion. That's cute. Daisy LLC's here. Time Girls here. Fabric Attic, welcome in. And thanks for all the nice comments. There is life outside of Whatnot. Yeah, I know, right? Some days I don't feel like there is. So my husband and I are full time on Whatnot. And so when you're full time on Whatnot, you have to really immerse yourself in the whole thing to be able to keep it going and keep having good trajectory. What you making? Welcome in. And yes, good morning, Whatnot friends. Yeah, someone said that recently, immersing yourself. And I thought, yeah, you really do have to if you want to have good. Oh, we just got raided. Who raided us? Daisy Lane. Thank you for the raid. Welcome in, everybody. We're chatting. Today is my normal walk and talk. Thank you so much, Daisy Lane. Everybody give Daisy Lane a follow. She's a relatively newer seller. Did you rate us from your morning chat this morning? And she's been doing chats, and she also sells in vintage category. So she's been having kind of motivational, more like get to know you community chats. So those are fun. All right. Tomorrow I'm on in the morning. It's my second monthly community chat where I'm in front of the camera. So instead of on the treadmill, and I haven't solidified a specific topic, which we don't have to have one, but it would be kind of nice to know what people are wanting to talk about. What's a topic, something that I can share with you where I am in front of the camera? Because I like to do a lot of more hands-on stuff and actually show you things on the screen. So give me some ideas of, things that you need help with or that would like to learn. Gwen says, I feel like I eat, sleep, eat, drink, Whatnot. I'm trying so very hard to grow my business. Yeah. And I was thinking about that today, this morning, as I was getting ready to come on. Yesterday, there was a glitch in the system that you might have noticed where if someone's show was on the schedule and they did not go live, normally it just disappears pretty quick, but it was staying in the schedule on the For You page. And so it was kind of lumping up the shows because you had all these shows that never went live. And I was kind of shocked at how many people are scheduling shows and then not going live. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because we noticed it and a couple of us reported it. And so, yeah, it was kind of weird. So, your question is how to become a mod. How to become a mod. A room is one of my questions. So, you have to be invited by a seller to become a mod. But the way that you usually become a mod is that you are actively part of someone else's shows regularly and have, proven yourself trustworthy, and, they ask you to moderate. So it's kind of an organic thing, but you can also offer to moderate. If you feel comfortable, if someone's looking for moderators, you can offer to moderate. So, what do you normally sell? What's your category? So, let me screenshot those two things, moderating and then go read the articles about what you can what the tools that moderators have. So there's a couple of tools moderators have access to. And so you need to make sure you know how to do that. So let me screenshot those two things. really quick. Okay. And then the next one is an easier way to move my buy it now to live auction. Like, can I leave items in the buy it now and still run as auction? I go into each item and manually move them. So you want to, well, there's an easier way, which is to just run it as an auction right out of the buy it now. You don't have to move it. So if you have an item that's in your buy it now and you want to run it as an auction, you just run it as an auction because that's one of the options. But I can show you how to do that tomorrow. So I screenshotted that. Okay. Welcome in Mahia, Jimmy, Cowgirl, Legendary, Katie Bug, Amy. Oh, Amy's saying, okay. Yeah. So I'll show you that tomorrow. How do I get more people into my shows? I've been selling for nearly 3 months. There's normally only an average of 8 people, and I network like crazy. All right. So, have you experimented with different times of day? Also, have you followed my 5 F's and figured out things you can do differently to try and keep more people in the room? Because I promise you that people are coming in and out, but you need to figure out why they aren't staying. Okay. So those 5 F's will help you explore, and I can't answer that, but it will help you explore reasons why maybe, more people aren't sticking around. So let me pin that. 5 F's. The 5 F's for attracting buyers. Okay. And it basically is just talking about how to get people in your room and have them stay there and buy stuff, right? So the 5 F's, and you have to do some deep digging because sometimes, you know, sometimes there's things that, you have to change about what you're doing, how you're doing it, what you're selling, and you may not like the answer, being blunt, right? So the 5 F's, if you're new to me, I just pinned it. This is what it looks like. Make sure you tap the picture of that and tap it again, make it big, take a screenshot, and let's just review that really quick. So the number 1 F is fun. You need to make your shows fun. You need to be having fun, and people need to have the perception of you're enjoying what you're doing and they're going to enjoy staying in your show. A big part of Whatnot is entertainment. People are replacing other things they do in their lives to spend time in your show. Don't take that for granted. What are you doing in your shows to make them want to stay there? And they don't get that time back. So, you've got to have all these things in place to make sure they want to stick around. So having fun, showing that you enjoy what you're doing and have fun doing it. Number 2 is fast pace. You've got to have your shows at a fast enough clip. It doesn't have to be 5-second sudden death. It just needs to be a good pace so that people don't get bored. People aren't like waiting for you to do stuff. And they'll stick around because you keep it going. And let's face it, with technology, people's attention spans get shorter and shorter because we're just so used to having everything instantly at our fingertips. Findings, you have to have good stuff. You have to have product that people want to buy. And there are some sellers that really need to reassess, what they're selling because maybe it's not what people want right now. I can't answer that. You've got to do some research and figure that out. Okay. Fulfillment, you've got to obviously do good fulfillment, fast shipping, great customer service. If you do all three of those first things, but then you suck at getting things shipped and giving good customer service, you might have fun for a while, but it will eventually catch up to you and you'll be gone. All right. And then the last thing is frequency. Doing shows often enough that people see you and make your shows part of their regular schedule. Okay. Those are the 5 F's. There are some people on this app that have mastered the 5 F's to the point that, they just blow up. And a lot of it is number one, fun. For whatever reason, they just click with a lot of people. Their shows are a lot of fun. And, you know, and I would say that we do pretty good at that, but I wouldn't say we're masters at it because I haven't, blown through the roof. We're doing really well and we have a good business on here, but I haven't gone viral, so to speak. I'm not a celebrity. So, yeah. But yeah, you need some feedback. And you need to have some hard looks at what am I not doing that I could do better. And you can't change who you are. So you still have to be authentic, but what can you do within those 5 things to make it better? So do some hardcore thinking about all those things and try and improve. It is getting harder. There is a lot more competition. Whatnot has grown exponentially fast. Some categories are very crowded. And a lot of sellers sometimes decide this category is too crowded. I can't make an inroad. I've tried and tried, and they change categories if they want to stick around. So you have to, really decide what's going to work. And honestly, a part of it is just not giving up. Because, like I said, the glitch yesterday showed us how many people scheduled shows and didn't show up. Because a big part of it is just showing up. No matter how frustrating or if you had a bad show or a bad day or a bad week, you still showed up. But you got to be, pivoting and figuring out what's not working. And a big part of that too is making goals. Have a goal for every show. And it can be something, it needs to be something achievable. So if things aren't going great and you haven't quite figured out the magic things that are going to make it better, have a small achievable goal. I'm going to stay on for 2 hours. Maybe that's your goal. Maybe your goal is I want to sell, 20 items. Maybe your goal is I need to make X amount of dollars. And then you stay on until that happens. You make it happen. But you've got to pivot and do the things that you need to do to, keep it working. So, and it does take some hard looks at what you're doing and figuring out, why it's not working. So, yeah. And I know it gets frustrating because you compare yourself to other people that are being successful. And that's one of the downfalls is stop comparing. Have your own goals, have what you want to achieve, constantly rethink what you're doing. And if it's not working, switch it, change it up, pivot, do something different. Okay. What do I think about promotion? My first show is paid for the promotion and did great. Second show didn't sell one thing. If you're in a crowded category and promoting makes sense, do it, but it's got to be part of your budget and how you price so that you're not losing money promoting. I don't promote. It doesn't make sense in my category because when I've tried it a couple of times, and when I looked at the statistics, it made no sense. So in my category, it just doesn't work. I do know a premier seller who's told me she promotes every single show. I don't know if she still does, but she did then, and it helped her get to where she's at because it does position you higher in search when you promote. So, you have to look at it, try it out, look at the statistics. They give you the analytics in there to show you how many how many views you got, how many people actually stayed, how many people actually bought something that came from the promotion. So you've got to look at the statistics from that promotion to really make sure it makes sense. And again, you've got to build the price of doing that into your pricing so that you're not losing money promoting your shows. So those are the things that I would say about promoting. Okay. And yes, when you're new, they do boost your first show. And so it kind of gives you an artificial boost or maybe an authentic boost, depending on, what category you're in and everything. And then you have to decide kind of after that if it's worth it to you and find a happy place, for that. Hey, Sassamon, welcome in. How are you today? All right. So yeah, tomorrow we can talk about stuff like that. We can talk about moderating, what that means. We can talk about the other, let's see, what was the other thing that I screenshotted? How to run items out of your buy it now or move them to auction. And again, yeah, I can just show you that it's pretty simple. You just run it as an auction item instead of pulling it from the bin. You don't have to move it, you just run it. So that's pretty simple. All right. Other things people are, wondering about, let me know. Because I'm kind of just fishing for a topic that we can go over tomorrow. Make sure you have in my show notes, make sure you have my show notes screenshotted because there's all those starred bullets that are in there. And those tell you where officially the sources to go for certain things. So that Whatnot seller's account, that's the first starred bullet in the show notes. Make sure you have that account followed and try to make it to all their shows. They're doing a couple of shows that are specific to certain categories, so maybe you don't necessarily need to go to those. But let me pull up because they have a show coming up on the 27th that is geared specifically at new sellers. So, it's tomorrow. Is tomorrow the 27th? Yeah, tomorrow at noon, my time, which means it's at 10 a.m. Eastern time, right? And it is live selling basics. So if you're a new seller, you need to be in that show because they're going to walk you through the process of those basic things, setting up, streaming, and selling. On the 3rd, they're introducing new product updates. And there's some good stuff coming down the pike. Try to make sure you can make it into that show as well. And they are putting these shows on YouTube, which is also in your show notes. The second star bullet, make sure you subscribe to that official Whatnot YouTube channel where they are posting the videos from these shows. So the interviews they do and the other stuff. So make sure you have that subscribed on YouTube and go see all the content they have on that YouTube channel. And my tip for that is make sure you type in exactly at Whatnot app, because that there's so much content on YouTube for Whatnot that if you don't type in exactly that address and find that exact account, you're going to be searching for hours and not find it. So, because there's a ton of other YouTubers that have put videos out there about Whatnot. All right. Let me get back in to the show. All right, let's see. Who is it? I didn't see. So the account is Whatnot Sellers. So click my show notes open, and the first star bullet in my show notes tells you about that account, Whatnot Sellers. And it's an official account for Whatnot, and the community team from Whatnot comes on and goes live on that account on the shows that you see on their schedule. So make sure you have those bookmarked. Okay. And then the second starred bullet is their YouTube account where they're posting the videos, the replays of those videos. So if for some reason you can't make it there live, then the videos you missed will be downloaded to that Whatnot channel on YouTube. Okay. All right. You are welcome. All right. Let's see. Let's just talk about really quick. If you're new to me, screenshot those show notes, get all those starred bullets screenshotted so you have those references. And then in my auction tab, so if you click the shop button on your screen and then navigate to the auction tab, so just click shop and then click auction. There's 11 items in there now that are all different kinds of tips, helps, different topics, and you can screenshot all of those things. And some of them have multiple pages. So you just tap the first picture and then, swipe to see if there's more pages. Just all kinds of different tips and tricks about different things. So I also have a YouTube channel, and I multicast my shows to YouTube. So you should be able to find my seller chats on YouTube. Sometimes it's glitchy. I think it's working again. There's a few that might have gotten missed. So in the show notes again, the second paragraph in my show notes with the little talking head, that is my YouTube channel, Draz on Whatnot. So if you miss one of my seller chats and you want to go rewatch or watch it, or maybe there was one we were talking about something specific and you want to rewatch it, go to my YouTube channel, which is Draz on Whatnot, and go to the lives. And in the lives, you'll find these shows. I have a specific couple of ones I reference people to. One of them is called Don't Sink Your Shipping, and it has a little ship in the title. And that show goes over all the basics of shipping. So which a lot of new sellers struggle with shipping. So if you need that video, I show you all the boxes. I talk about how to decide what shipping settings to put in. And it goes with this document right here that I'm going to pin called Choosing Basic Shipping Settings. So make sure you have that screenshotted if you need help with shipping. Next month in September, on my schedule, let me minimize and see. I have a show scheduled. We're going to talk about shipping again. And I'll probably do something similar where I'll get out all the boxes. So on the 17th of September, we're going to do a Don't Sink Your Shipping second edition. So that's on my schedule right there. So make sure you have that one bookmarked. Okay. Because we'll do that again and kind of go over shipping. And they have updated shipping a little bit and changed some things on the seller hub. So, we'll talk about some of those updates. We just got rated from Lisa Works. Lisa is amazing, you guys. She's an artist. She designs fabric. I'm so honored that she's here on our app with us. Make sure you have her followed. And how the heck are you, Lisa? I got some fabric from her. She does cats on her. Most of her designs have her little cat. What's his name again? Remind me. And they are so freaking adorable. So Nigel is her cat that she has designed, and he's on most of her prints, and adorable. So if you don't follow Lisa Works, get her followed. Let me show you her profile because she's just so cute, and her fabrics are so cute. So here we go. And she designs for one of the brands that we all love, Dear Stella, right? Is that correct? All right, so here she is, and there's Nigel up there with her. She makes those cute Nigel stuffies that are adorable. When's your next show? So everyone can bookmark it. Tomorrow, 6:30, 6:33. So let's get that bookmarked. Whisker Wednesday. Awesome. So yes, Dear Stella. Dear Stella is one of those lines of fabric. We kind of joke about it here on Whatnot, where we say stuff like, Dear Stella, please stop making so many cute things because we can't resist buying more. Because they have so many cute fabrics, including the ones that Lisa designs. So thank you for joining. All right. Oh, thank you for the tip. You didn't have to do that. That was so sweet of you. All right. So what else, other topics are you guys struggling with? Thank you. Thank you. Yes, go get ready for work. Go create some more cute Nigel stuff. Excited to see what else you come up with. All right. So what other topics are you struggling with that we can talk about tomorrow that I can show you on the screen? So is there anything that you're trying to figure out? And I know everybody has a different, affinity for being able to use technology. Some people it's a real struggle. Some people just pick it up. I'm one of those weirdos that I like technology, and somehow I can just figure out apps and different software, and honestly, part of it is just I'm kind of a closet computer technology geek, and so I sometimes get in trouble because I just sit there and figure things out by trying things. So sometimes that gets me in trouble. But if you're not naturally, that way, you need help with people showing you how to do certain things or even just how to find things. So, what are the things you need help finding or doing? Can you show me in the chat how to go into our settings so that iPhone users can use the zoom in, zoom out? As far as I know, that's just built in. There's nothing in your settings that changes that I know of, but I will investigate that. So let me screenshot that and I will look that up But yeah, as far as I know, it's just built in. If you are streaming from an iPhone and another person is on an iPhone, you just swipe left and take the chat out of the picture, and you can zoom in by, using your fingers to zoom in. But I'm pretty sure it is just, part of the software. One of the frustrations, and this is actually a frustration from the programming side on Whatnot, is that they actually have to program 3 ways to try and make the app work for different things. Well, more than 3 ways, but three basic ways: Apple, iPhone, Android, and web. And to try and get all of them to do all the same things is kind of a programming nightmare. So they have to do, so give them some grace that they're trying to make it seamless across all platforms, but you can't always give everybody the same experience because it's a programming thing for different things. And then you also have to consider all the different browsers. So, depending on what browser you're using, sometimes things don't work the same way exactly. How do I find my ratings and buyer comments? So it's just in your reviews. So if you go to your main profile, let me show you that really quick, but we can show that again tomorrow. So here's my main profile, right? And you see shop, shows, and reviews right there. So you just click reviews, and then it will show you all of the latest reviews that you received. Now, keep in mind that your number of reviews, so here's my number of reviews right there, is not always going to match how many actually show up, because people have the option to just give you a star and then not leave a comment. And if there's no comment left, though, that review doesn't actually show up when you click reviews, because it's in your count as a 5-star review or a 4-star review. Well, actually, that's only the case for 5-star. If they leave less than 5 stars, it makes them put a comment in order to leave the review. So anything less than 5 stars, it will have some kind of comment. And then, but people can leave a 5-star review without comments, and it won't show up because they didn't say anything. All right, so it's in your count, but not in, not showing up. All right. And then, yeah, I can go over that again tomorrow if you want me to, but that's where you find them. And let's see. Yeah, anything else? Oh, Heart Center says I meant as a seller, not as a buyer. Oh, okay. So as a seller, is there something that you can do in the settings so that users can zoom in and zoom out? That's the icon. So, how to go into our settings so that iPhone users can use the zoom and zoom out. Again, it just depends on what they're streaming from and what you're watching from. So, yeah. Because as a seller, I'm pretty sure there's nothing you can do. It's just part of the program, depending on what they're using, either iPhone or Android or web. Obviously, on web, I don't know that you can even do that. The web version, if you have users that are watching from their computer, or they're using the web version of the app, a lot of times people will say, oh, it won't let me enter the giveaway, or oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. Well, you discover they're actually watching on a computer, And the computer is the web version is very limited as far as the actual bidding and buying process. So encourage people to use their mobile device. So Green 13 is using OBS. So Green 13 is using technology that you can, it's a software. So OBS, write that down. O as in Oscar, B as in boy, S as in Sam. And you can look that up in Seller Help. And it's a whole different technology software where you use the OBS to open and run your show instead of using just the basic app. And it allows you to do a lot of different things like zoom in and out and split your screen and put special effects on your screen. And it's much more rich than, tools than what the basic software offers. So yeah, that's what he's using is OBS. So look that up. You can just go to help.whatnot.com and type in OBS if you want to learn and try to use OBS. But it's another, technology. All right, welcome in. Hey, Pangy Patterns in 1799. How you doing today? And I don't use OBS, so I can't guide you really well on OBS other than to tell you that it is available. So if you're a techie person and want to try, I just have never felt like it's that. The shows that use split screens or a lot of technology, they're not even showing, like they've got all kinds of special effects and stuff like that. For what I sell, it doesn't make sense. So I haven't really explored it more than, thinking about it. If it advances enough that most sellers are starting to do it, then I'll look into it more. So yeah. Pangy's doing great. Good to hear. We're talking about what kind of things you guys want to see in person tomorrow, because I will be on tomorrow morning in my community show where I'm in front of the camera instead of on the treadmill. So if there's things that you guys need help with where I can show you on screen how to do certain things, shout it out and I'll put it on the list for things that will show tomorrow. Make sure you have tomorrow's show bookmarked. I'm on at, I think, 8 o'clock my time, which is, 2 hours later if you're East Coast. Let's see. Let me see what time I'm on. Yeah, 8 a.m. tomorrow. So it's that show right there. So make sure you have that one bookmarked and we'll go over stuff like that. So far on our list, we've got a couple of things, but if there's other things that you guys need help with, just let me know. Sorry. Starting, I think, to get a cold, but I've been using Zycam to try and make it not come on full blast. So if anyone doesn't use Zycam, I swear by it. But I like the little things that you break open that have gel in them and you swab it inside your nose. Yeah, I'm hoping the cold does not come full blown. So, I just started feeling it yesterday and started doing the Zycam, and so far, so far so good. Yeah, Zycam. It's a so when I was young, like a freshman in college. Let's see, that was in the late 80s. I went to my university. They have the college I went to has their own medical clinic, and I went to the doctor there and found out that somehow I had gotten what's that virus, Epstein Barr. Can't even remember what the actual name is that most people call it. Anyway, um, and and they tell you, the doctor always tells you, sorry, there's not much we can do for viral diseases. But he told me at that time that they had been researching using zinc, which is what this stuff is in Zycam, to kind of reduce viral counts. And he's like, the research is amazing. And he highly recommended using zinc tablets to help lower viral counts. And he had done a lot of research with that. And so I take it faithfully. If I start to feel any kind of viral cold, whatever coming on, then I start popping that stuff. And it almost always, if even if you didn't catch it fast enough, it makes it so it doesn't last as long and isn't as severe. So there you go. Health tips from Dana today. You're welcome. Use zinc. Yeah, so yeah, Zycam. It's a brand that's in like an orange package, and they have lozenges you can suck on, and they have those little gel swabs that you just take it. It's like a little Q-tip that has this gel stuff on it, and you swab it up in your nose. And what it does is it just prevents the viruses from really latching in and taking, getting in there as much, because the zinc kind of coats the linings of your respiratory system, and then it kind of prevents them from getting in and count, getting more count of viral count. All right, so tomorrow, could you maybe show us how to get an item that is in inventory but not in show from inventory and inactive? That happened on my second show. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one that a lot of people, there's some basic stuff with listings. So I just screenshotted that one. That a lot of people don't realize, all the different things you could do with listings. So we can definitely go over that. So Heart Centered loves Zycam too. Yeah, it really does work. You do have to catch it early and try it, and start using it early, but it does work. Yeah. Welcome in, Strawberry Swag. Thanks for joining. So Zycam needs to pay me promotional money, right? Because I'm promoting their product. All right. So yes, we can definitely go over that and show you all the different things you can do with listings and how to get them from one place to another and back again or whatever. Because the one thing I tell people is, once you create a listing, it never goes away. You can always use it again. Even if it's sold, you can take that listing and duplicate it. So if you had something that sold, but you have another one that you found, or you just want to use that as a template for a new product so that you don't have to recreate the listing, you can do that. Yeah. Flash sales. Yes, I can go over flash sales. So let me screenshot that. Flash sales are amazing. They're an amazing tool to help you get extra sales. You do have to have good products and some things to flash sell, but you can even flash sell items that you only have one of. if you want to. So we can go over flash sales and how to set them up and how to run them. So I'll get some things set up in my Buy It Now that that we can flash sale live, so you'll be able to see that process. Shirley says, my family is sick right now. I'm so sorry. And I'm going to go get some today. Yes, do it. Although I'll warn you that once you're already sick, it's a little less effective. It's more effective if that very first time that you feel that little tickle in your throat, or your nose starts running, or, whatever the first symptoms are, that's when you have to start doing it like mad. But it will still help. It'll help prevent it from dragging out as long. Let's see. Why does Whatnot now have a whole banner area on the For You page for Buy Now sales? Are they promoting that more? Yes. So they're doing different things in different places on the For You page. So they'll feature different things. They'll feature, premier sellers. They'll feature up and coming sellers. They'll feature Buy It Now things because they're trying to promote the marketplace. Because we have, but the marketplace honestly is not super vibrant. The items that you can buy that aren't in a live show necessarily. So they're trying to help build that up. Another opportunity for more sales for people to come in and actually search for a specific item, find it, and buy it, even if it's not in a live show. So, yeah. Yes, with the kids back at school, you definitely should have Zycam on hand. So, definitely. All right. So, yeah, it just depends on what they're featuring, and they're not necessarily promoted more. It just depends on what they're featuring. So if you scroll a little ways, you have that middle section that shows up. Let me go out to the For You page and kind of show you. So the For You page shows shows in the categories that you have selected. So it's limited to what you've selected, sort of, but then it also has features. So as you scroll down, right now they have an active section for premier shops. And that's one of the incentives for going premier, is that you do get featured more on the For You page. And then if you keep scrolling, here's shows with momentum. And I'm not super clear on what exactly that means, but I've been told what it means is that someone who is a newer seller or doesn't necessarily have huge amounts of people in their room, but they are, a promising seller, if they're having things going on in their shows where they're getting a lot of interaction, you may or may not show up in that section at any given time. You're probably not going to know if you did, unless someone mentions it. So shows with momentum. And so you've got some in there that just have, the first one listed just has 13 people in their show. But obviously they built, for some reason, they're showing up in that section. So they've gotten to a certain level, they've got some activity in that show. So they're being featured. So you could be being featured in that section for whatever reason. And then there's popular shows. So that's different than premiere. So it's just shows that have, a lot of people in them. They're popular right now. So that's one of the sections. And then let's see. categories you might like. It suggests categories that you may or may not be following. And then I'm not seeing anything on Marketplace, but those are the ones that it's showing me right now. So yeah, they switch it up and down. So, they just do that. But most people go into For You, and if there's a show right at the top that they normally would watch, that's as far as they go. Sometimes people then click over to the category that they are interested in. Oh, we just got a raid from the Fun Fit. Thank you so much for the raid. Let me get in here and make sure I'm following you. It's not showing on my screen here. There it is. Hi, welcome in. So I'm following you, and let's view your profile. So Joni is the Fun Fit. Look at her Fun Bright profile there. And Joni, when is your next show? Today at 9:24. So we're going to bookmark Joni's show that is today at 9:24 p.m. Talbot's, all sizes, low starts, women's clothing, women's contemporary. Is Talbot still a business? And I'm so out of, I don't sell in clothes. I don't buy new clothes. Is Talbot still a store that is in business? Unlike so many that aren't. They are. Okay, so you bought like a Talbot's palette or something? Because I used to buy from Talbot's many, many years ago when I worked in an office and had to look nice. Now I work from home for Whatnot, not for Whatnot, on Whatnot. And sometimes I dress nice. Most of the time I'm wearing t-shirts, jeans, sweatpants. Yeah. So the life of getting to dress. So you buy retail or thrift, no pallets. Oh, okay. So right now you're just doing retail arbitrage or thrifting. Okay. So no pallets. All right. So does everyone know that term retail arbitrage? So it's kind of a reselling term, but it basically means that you go shopping and you find nice items on clearance at, retail stores. And then because you got it at such a great discount, you're able to turn around and resell it for a higher profit. Since we're in a seller chat, nobody freak out if you're a buyer, but that is a very, very profitable strategy to use for reselling because not everybody gets to be live in the stores all the time. So it's almost like you're providing a service because you're passing on the huge savings, but you're profiting by adding a little bit on there for the trouble that you take to go source all this stuff, right? So retail arbitrage can be very profitable. Those of you who are having trouble sourcing, if you're not shopping retail to source, you may be missing out. So little tip there on sourcing. Okay. So you have chickens, like live chickens at your house. That's cool. I love chickens, although they are kind of stinky, but I like chickens. They're hilarious. I have a funny chicken story. So my mom grew up on a farm in Arizona, and they always had chickens. And one time they had a bunch of watermelons her grandpa grew in, or my grandpa grew in the garden, and some of them went, got overripe. And so they, you always feed your pigs and your chickens whatever you have. And so they threw some of these watermelons in for the chickens to eat and peck at. And I guess they were a little bit more overripe than they thought. And the chickens got drunk. And so she always told us the story of the drunk chickens. She said it was so hilarious because they literally were just like wobbling around and falling over and squawking weird. And she was like, it was so funny. She kind of felt bad, but at the same time, I don't think it hurt them. It just, they just got a little bit drunk. So yeah, drunk chickens. Who knew, right? All right. Shirley asked, I asked earlier, is it best to keep your store full of items? I have 4 sales and 3 have been candy sales out of the buy it now in the bin. Yes. I always tell people if you don't have a loaded bin, you're missing out on sales in every single show. And you should be doing flash sales and running items out of your buy it now as well. I know it was hilarious. That story is so funny. And my mom was a very pious person. And so to hear her tell that story and have her kind of giggle about it just makes my heart happy. So it's too cute. So growing up on a farm, you see a lot of things that the rest of us who didn't grow up on a farm didn't get to see. So farm stories are always good. Yeah, it is a cute story. So yeah, always have items in your buy it now. Because if people want to support you, or if they aren't necessarily in love with what you're showing in the auction, but you have some really good deals, it's always a good idea to remind people, or have your moderator, if you have one, remind people to shop the bin. And just I always show people a few items that are in there, and I run flash sales because flash sales are the bomb because you can feature some things and then run it on flash sale. And just, people, if they already have an order, they're going to be like, yes, heck yeah, I'll add that on for, $2, $3, $4. So have some nice items. In my show yesterday, I flash sold an item and I sold all but one of them, so definitely worth your time. And one of the things I can show you tomorrow as well. Hey, the Stampin' Chick, welcome in. You were in my show last night. So, and did you buy one of those things I flash sale? The little carry-all cubby things. So that's something I picked up a bunch of, and I've been flash selling them. And yeah, I sold all but one. So yes, they're super cute. And I got them for a screaming deal. And so I could pass that screaming deal on and flash sell it. And they were nice little items. Yeah, there is one left. I don't think I have it in this show. Let me look. I don't think I put it in. Let's see, what were those called? Harry. Yeah, I don't think I have it in here today, but it'll be in my show probably tomorrow or later today. I'll have a fabric show later today, so I'll make sure it's in there. Let's see. I already packed everything up, so everything's already packed, and we are running it to the post office today. But yeah, those were a good deal, weren't they? Yeah, good deal. Hopefully, I can find some more because that was a really good deal. All right. So, yes, always put stuff in your buy it now. Find some good stuff that you can, pass along a good savings. And I mean, I sell stuff in my buy it now in almost every single show. You do have to make the effort, though, to remember to tell people to go look, run some flash sales, have a couple of pauses, maybe while you're running a giveaway. Pause for a minute and go feature some stuff that are in your buy it now. Show people some of the stuff, and that will help you sell it better than if you just expect people to look. especially if you're running a busy show where you're pretty actively selling. Sometimes people won't go shop the Buy It Now because they don't want to miss what you have in your auction. So take a pause, run some flash sales, go feature some stuff from the Buy It Now, take a minute to do that and, increase your sales that way, especially after people have already started buying. Because if you do reduce shipping, if you're able to offer reduced shipping, people are always excited to add a few things to their order to make their shipping worth, if they've already reached the max shipping level where they aren't going to have to pay additional shipping, they're often very excited to add some new other stuff to their package for an inexpensive price. So definitely try to pack as much in there as you can that makes sense for what you're selling. Yes, same. I'm the same way as a buyer. Once I hit that max shipping, I'm like, okay, how can I make this package worth the shipping that I paid? Pack some more stuff in there, right? So definitely worth it. And yeah, I can show you tomorrow when we're in front of the camera. I can show you how to do the flash sales. I can show you how to use UPC code scanner to scan items that it will make it so it lists it for you basically. So if you didn't know how to use that, I can show you how to use that. You just spent like $100 on kitschy things to fill a box. There you go, right? Yep, it works. It works. Sometimes too well, right? So yes, that is an option. So you can scan instead of when you go to take a picture, instead of taking a picture, when you click when you're in a listing, creating a listing, and the very first thing it shows you is to take the picture or to upload the photo. There's a third option on your screen. Maybe you didn't even notice it, which is to scan. So if you have merchandise that's new with tag, you can scan the UPC code. And as long as it is, a modern enough product with a modern UPC code, it should find it and it will fill in a stock photo, the title, and the description for you. You do have to kind of go in and make sure you like what it says and take out any weird things, because sometimes it'll put like SKU numbers and inventory numbers and warnings and weird stuff in there. So you'd have to tweak it. And then, of course, if you want to have some kind of numbering system, put that in the beginning of the title. But other than that, it fills all that in. So very nice feature. And I will tell you, there's some more amazing updates coming down the pike in addition to that will help you with your listings. So I can't give you any details, but there's some good stuff coming. So yeah, that's the option to scan the UPC. Option to scan UPC. So when you go to create a listing, let me just show you really quick. So if you go into your shop, and you can be inside the show or just in your profile shop and create a listing. Let me just do it inside the show. It'll be easier. So we're in this show. If I decide I want to add an item, so I'm just going to click my shop. And let's say I want to add it as a Buy It Now item. So I'm going to go into the Buy It Now. And then you've got your little plus sign to add. So I'm going to create a product. And I'm going to create a quality listing. And then the first thing in there is a photo, right? So you click that and you've got three options: upload, take, or scan. Okay. So I'm going to click scan, and then it brings up the camera and it will actually scan a UPC code. I don't have anything on me right now that I can do it, but I'll show you this tomorrow when we're live in front of the camera. And then it So play with it today, and then I'll show you. Yeah, any UPC code. Now, if you have an old product, a vintage product that has a UPC from like the 80s or 90s, probably not going to come up. But any current UPC code, you'll most likely have it, find it, and bring it in. And like I said, it brings in a stock photo, and if there is one, and then it will fill in your title and your description. And then you just have to tweak those if needed. Take some additional photos because you want to have more than just the stock photo. And then you'll have to fill in the quantity and the weight. But man, it's so much faster, to be able to list things. Okay. Yeah, Stampin' Up! Sets. That should work as long as there's a UPC on there. That should work. Yep. Very cool. Yes, I love helping other people, you guys. That's one of my, I had an epiphany recently. You know how people talk about what's one of your, what's your love language? What do you do to show, love and affection and whatever to other people? And one of my love languages is teaching. I love to share my knowledge with other people and help them succeed. So, yeah. Steph Hop has a question on networking. Go for it. Yeah, acts of service, whatever you want to call it. So, that's one of the things I like to do to help people. I have a hard time networking in my groups. How do I do that? Honestly, the best way to network is to be in other people's shows. And it's hard because sometimes, if you struggle with buying too much, take your credit card out of your account so that you literally can't buy, but network by being in other people's shows. Just be there. And then the other huge way is always raid and and then try and join some raid trains. So those are the three things. You've got to be on here in other people's shows. And yeah, you're networking right now just by being in here. And then, yeah, always raid and then join raid trains. How do you find and join raid trains? So, couple of strategies for that. Once you've, kind of tried networking in your category a lot, you'll see raid trains, and usually they will tell you right on the thumbnail who organized it, or it will be in the show notes, or you can go in and ask the moderator who organized this raid train. And you just have to be bold and message them and ask, if you can be on the next one. There are a couple of people who do a lot of raid trains already. So, they already have scheduled raid trains coming up that are just a regular monthly thing. So, depending on the category that you're in, you can find out about those through some of those people that do regular raid trains. Just go to the For You page and type in the words raid train and start finding raid trains in your categories and reach out to people and find them. Okay. Stampin' says she's done 4 and have sent a raid each time. Oh, you've done 4 shows and have done a raid each time. Thanks tons to the gal who pointed out how to do it while we were in my first show. Yeah. So yeah, that's huge because it just gets you noticed. Melson, I want to sign up to be a seller. Is there a certain time frame after I sign up that I have to do your first show? There's not a certain time frame that you have to, but they do give you incentives to do it quicker, because then they will give you some promotional money. They'll match, and I don't know what it always is, but they'll match some of your sales. And so right now it's $150. Okay, so right now, $150 match if you make $150 in sales. Okay. So yeah, it's, you know, but if if you need to, you can take some more time. And did I miss a question? Let me check. Let's see. A few little bumps. Let's see. Did you ask a question or you're referring to someone else's question? Because I don't see one from you. If you search shows for Raid, you can find them. Yes. Did you not put a question on it? A few little bumps? Because if it wasn't in bold, I might have missed it. Let me check again. Let's see. A few little bumps, scrolling back. Or ask again if I missed it, because I might have. Yeah, I don't see one from you. So ask it again if I missed it. Let's see, check out the item pinned below too about the shipping is very helpful. Oh, yes. So my choosing basic shippings. And yes, it is totally okay to promote here. Please shout out your shows. Please follow each other. Please go bookmark each other's shows. It is something you can do ad nauseum in this show. So CP finds, I think mine only shows 100 versus 150. Yeah, they change it. So, whatever it is when you first sign up, and that's why I said I have no clue because I'm not, new. And so I don't know what offers they have. Let's see. I'm going to do a show where I will be teaching and not selling. What category would I list that under? Teaching what? Are you going to be doing a demo on making something, or are you teaching about whatnot? If you're teaching about whatnot, probably just put it under community. If you're teaching them a demo, so demo on journaling and art. So you probably want to keep it in the same category. But there is, I think there is a category for demonstrations under community. Let me look. So, but I would probably, since it's specific to journaling and art, I would keep it in your category. So under other crafts, probably because that's how you're going to find the right people who would want to watch, right? So put it under what makes sense for what you're doing. Yeah. So categories, I was just going to look because I think let me look under community. Under and whatnot, everything else and community. But I thought maybe there was a demo. Let's see, arts. Under arts and handmade, we've got all arts and handmade, craft supplies, rocks and crystals, handmade items, woodworking. So somewhere I remember seeing demonstrations. But anyway, yeah, just put it under the category that makes sense for what you're doing to find the best audience. So yeah. Yeah, the problem with categories, there's two kind of rules of thought with that, because you do have to be careful about wishing for more, because if you're too narrow of a category, then people don't even follow that category and don't even know it exists. If it's too broad, then there's too many shows. So you kind of have to have a happy medium, which I think right now there's a pretty happy medium, because if you go into most categories, and then if you narrow it down just one step, there's still a lot of shows. But see what I mean? You want to have it broad enough so that people still find you, even if they don't narrow it down or if they had a more narrow category, your thought process is, oh, that would be so much better, but actually maybe it wouldn't, because people wouldn't even know to search for that category, right? So yeah, so you have to kind of think about it that way. It does kind of, for listing items, I do kind of wish there were more categories, but for show categories, I think you want it more broad. So, because you want people to be able to find you. So everyone wants to know if 1799's house is haunted. That's a good question. Community demo. That's what I was thinking too, but then I didn't see it in there. So look that up, because I was thinking there was one. But then again, if you're doing something journaling, papering, you may want it just be in that category. So Steph says, I do crystals and thrifty clothes for plus size. Right now we have a bunch of sizes. Oh, and so you're like, do I put it under plus? Do I put it under? Is that what you're saying? So you kind of trying to decide what to put it under? Yeah. Yeah. And that's, here's a tip about categories. Put the show category as the best one that you feel like will capture the biggest audience. But then when you list your items, make sure you list the item in a very specific category that matches the item, because that will help bring in people who follow the category of the item you listed as well. So have your listings. So like if you're under just like women's contemporary or something, but you have, men's clothing as well, or you have children's clothing as well, or you have plus size clothing, make sure the item that you list is listed in specific categories in addition to what your show category is, so that you can bring in an audience for those specific items, because it will search those and bring in, it will show people shows if there are items in the category that they're searching under, even if your show is not that category. Does that make sense? How do you double check what my category is for your show? So you just edit the show. So go into one of your shows. So like here's my show that's on my schedule today. Click your show, click the three dots to edit your show, and click edit show. And then just scroll down to the category and see what you put it under. And if you need to change it, you can, but it does force you then to rechange the selling format and the tags. It will redo the tags. So yeah. Let me get back in here. Hey, Bubba's Finds, how are you? Let me just a second. Let me catch up. So list it in the shop beforehand and import it into the show. Well, have your listings either in the show or create them and put them in the show, but have them in the category that makes the most sense. All right, Bubba says, I've recently switched to max shipping and I've noticed I'm being charged too much for shipping. Do you know if sellers can get a refund? So you're being charged too much? What do you mean by that? So you switched to doing the 921 max, right? Is what you're saying. And then on the back end, when you go to ship, you should be using mostly flat rate boxes. So if you didn't have your show set for flat rate, that's probably the problem. Because if you start offering the 921 reduced shipping, and I'm talking fabric, you guys, don't do this if you don't sell something where you can offer flat rate. But you want to have your 1 to 5 pound set to flat rate and your 5 pound and over set to flat rate. And then only if they buy too much fabric that won't fit in a large flat rate box, then you turn flat rate off and change it to a ground advantage and use one of your adjustments. So I'm guessing that's what you didn't do, is you needed to set your shipping profile to flat rate on both 1 to 5 and 5 and over. So go in and do that, and then update your already existing shows to that same thing. So flat rate, because then you're using, because what it's doing is it's calculating their order at ground advantage, but then only charging them $9.21. And so then you're paying the additional because you had it set for priority and ground advantage, right? Yeah. So if you're going to do that $9.21, which is great, do it, because then you're offering reduced shipping. Make sure you have it set for flat rate. And then you only turn flat rate off if they buy too much, won't fit in a large flat rate, and then you turn it off and put in the dimensions and the weight, and it'll switch it to ground advantage. And then you use one of your adjustments to pay the extra for that ground advantage. No, when someone just orders one item, it's still ground advantage under 1 pound. And then you just put it in a poly mailer. And that's not going to use one of your adjustments, because that's just, calculated at ground advantage. It's over 1 pound where you need to have that set for flat rate, and then have the 5 pounds and over also set for flat rate, because then it only charges $9.21 for everything over a pound. And on the back end, that's all it charged for you as well. Yeah. So that's what you need to do. And again, if you go in and fix that on your main profile shipping settings, Seller Hub shipping, and change it in your main profile, but also go into all your existing shows. Someone told me the other day, though, if you make those changes, there's a button somewhere in there that says update existing shows. So look for that, and it will also update your existing shows with those settings. And then, yeah, because if you're doing the max $9.21, it only charges your buyers $9.21, no matter what. And so that was the problem, is that he had it set for priority ground advantage, but buyer pays max. And so the way it was calculating shipping is it was still calculating it at priority and ground advantage for the seller. But the buyers, once it hit $9.21, it wasn't charging them the additional shipping. It was charging it to him because he had it set up that way. Does that make sense? So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, and it just charges them that one time for the $9.21. Oh, you did that wrong for 3 months. Oh, Vintage Chick, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Yeah, you've got to have that shipping figured out. So that thing I have pinned, choosing basic shipping settings. Go, screenshot that, and then go watch my YouTube video that's called Don't Sync Your Shipping. And it helps you figure out how you need to have your shipping set up when you're new. And then once you're established, and like Bubba was saying, he's realized he could start offering reduced shipping, you need to update it to, reflect that you're going to do the reduced shipping, but you need to have everything set up correctly. You are so welcome. So welcome. Bubba's Finds lives here in Utah, where I live. He's a lot of fun. Make sure you follow him and bookmark his shows. He also sells in the fabric category. Sunflower Dreams, welcome in, and Vintage Chick. So, yeah. Any other questions about that? And a few little bumps. Did I address whatever it was you were asking? Because I never did see a question from you. So either restate it or let me know. Yeah, and if you want to do that, Stamp and Chick was talking about the envelope shipping. You've got to set that up exactly right or it won't work. So if you want to do the envelope shipping, make sure you have it set up correctly. Let me pin that one for you guys. So the envelope shipping guide is right here. And there's 3 things you have to remember to do. Once you update your shipping settings, you've got to make sure that shipping settings updated in all your existing shows. You've got to use the correct category, which is either stickers or trading cards or sports cards. Those are the only categories that you can use for envelope shipping. And then third, the weight has to be 0 to 1 ounce or envelope. One of those 2 things. Okay. So yeah, if I missed a question from a few little bumps, just write it again in there so I don't miss it. So if the weight that shows in your order is different than the actual weight, do you edit the weight for the shipping label? So $7.99. If it's flat rate, I don't, because you're just choosing the flat rate box. If it is not flat rate, yes, you need to change the dimensions of the box and the weight if it's different than what it shows. So if you're shipping priority but not flat rate or ground advantage over a pound or even under a pound, you need to put in the package dimensions and the weight. And if you're under a pound, and let's say that it's showing 4 ounces, and it actually ends up being like 5 or 6, you can update it to 5 or 6 and it's not going to charge you because it's still under a pound. The only issues you have with, changing weight from what it shows is if it throws it into over a pound or over 5 pounds, then it's going to be all messed up because those are the 3, or that's the levels where the difference in how it's going to ship it. So under a pound is always ground advantage. And as long as you're staying under 15 ounces, you're fine. And then 1 pound to 5 pounds is the next level. And depending on if you have that set for flat rate or not, if you then go over 5 pounds, it tries to switch it to, ground advantage, and you might have to pay if it didn't calculate correctly. So those are the levels at which you have to kind of watch to make sure. Okay. And yes, you should be updating it if it's not a flat rate. If you're using flat rate packaging, all you have to do is drop down the menu and pick the box or the package. So flat rate padded mailer, flat rate small box, flat rate medium, top load or side load or large. Those are your options. There is an envelope, a flat rate envelope. I don't even know if that's on the list. I think it is. But anyway, those are your flat rate options. I don't ever use envelopes. And then you don't have to put in anything else. Can I talk about how the numbering works with quality listings for each show you use them in? All right, so can I talk about how the numbering works? Well, any kind of listing, there's you can put your own numbering system on the beginning of a listing to try and order them or keep them in some kind of, system that you know how to find your items, but it will automatically number. If you have a listing that has multiple units, it will automatically number them starting with whatever number you have in there. It will number the first item you sell in that listing as number 1. So if your listing is, A items 1 to 4 ounces or 1 to 3 ounces, the first item you sell in that listing would be A, items 1 to 3 ounces, number one. The second item you sell would be number two, and so on. So if you use a numbering system to keep track of your orders, a lot of sellers will just have little stickers that as you sell that item, you would label it like A1, and then you know it was sold under listing A, first item. Yeah, each show it starts over, but it starts with, number one for that listing. So if you have listing A and you sell the first item in listing A, then that item, first one sold, will be number one. So it always starts over at number one. And then, you just need to go add more units if it's a listing you use over and over again, like a random pull listing. Yeah. So just pay attention when you sell that item that was a listing A, number one. Then the next item you sell under that listing is A, number two. And then if you're using a different listing, let's say you have a listing that's B, listing B, number one. So you would need to know that that was B listing instead of A listing. So B, number one, and so on. Yeah, that's how it works. And then if you want to have your own, like I said, A or B on the front of the listing so that you can keep them separate. Because if you have generic listings for random pulls that you use, but you have them by different weight or by different category, then that's how you would keep track of it. Yeah. And that's something, you just have to decide what's going to work for you. Because everybody has a different setup. If you sell by yourself, I would recommend doing a numbering system. But a lot of people will not only just put the number, but also put like the first few letters of someone's username so that you have a way to double check and make sure you got the right thing. Because sometimes your numbers can get off if you missed that something did sell or missed that something didn't sell, then your numbering might get off a little bit. So you've got to constantly check that. Right, because it only numbers it if it's sold. So if you put, if you run something and it doesn't sell, it doesn't skip the number. It's just that you might have thought that was that number, but it's not. It's, the next one is going to be the next number in sequence that sells. So yeah, it's sold items. Yeah. So if it doesn't sell, it doesn't count. CP Finds has a shipping question. Should we mark buyer pays up to set shipping or buyer pays all? What's the difference? So if you mark buyer pays up to set amount, then no matter how much they buy, it's only going to charge them that amount for the entire show. If you put buyer pays all, then it's going to incrementally continue to charge them shipping up to 1 pound. And then it will stop briefly and they'll have free shipping until they hit 5 pounds. And then it's going to continue to charge them once they've hit 5 pounds. It will start charging again for ground advantage rate if you have it set that way. So it depends on how you have your shipping settings set. If you do flat rate, so 1 to 5 pounds flat rate, 5 pounds and over flat rate, and buyer pays max $9.21, which is the flat rate that Whatnot has negotiated with the Postal Service for either flat rate packaging or for packaging 1 to 5 pounds, then it will only charge them that, and you'll use the flat rate packaging if you can. If you have it set for priority and ground advantage, then it charges them incrementally up to 1 pound. Then it stops until they hit 5 pounds. So it all depends on how you have your listings. That's why it's important to sell by weight. So you've got to know the weight of your item so that it's not under or overcharging your buyers on the shipping. And if you're doing flat rate, that's less important, but because you can, you're allowed to put up to 70 pounds of items in a flat rate package with no additional charge. But, if you're not doing flat rate packaging, you've got to have your weights correct so it's not undercharging shipping or overcharging shipping. Because if you overcharge people, they get kind of pissed and they won't come back. So make sure you try to have the most accurate weights on what you sell if you're not doing, buyer pays max setting of shipping. And you can do that at whatever you want. I mean, most people put it right at 921. Most sellers put it at 921 because that's what makes sense. They hit that 921 and they don't have to pay any additional shipping. And you're going to either ship it in flat rate packaging or pay a little bit of their shipping if they bought too much, which is a good problem to have. And then you unbundle and put it in 2 flat rates, or you turn flat rate off and put it in a ground advantage, your own box, a little bit bigger box that will fit everything they bought. So yeah. If you undercharge customers, you as a buyer will pay on the back end. Yes. So yeah. I have a question on that point. Items that I am selling are lightweight. So yeah, usually for lightweight stuff that are easy to pack, you can fit a lot of them in a single package. You should definitely be using the reduced shipping. I think I'm more confused. Most of what I sell is lightweight, but if they bundle, that could change. Yeah, so you just kind of have to calculate. It's a kind of a risk, calculated risk. You have to find your comfort level for what you sell and how you're going to set your shipping. So that's why, let me pin that choosing basic shipping settings guide again. Open that up and screenshot it. So, and we'll go over, that's the topic for next month. So on September 17th, make sure you have that show on my schedule bookmarked, because it's going to be Don't Sink Your Shipping Part 2. So updated from the last time I did it, but we'll show you all the boxes. We'll go through all of that and try and help you figure out what works best. But for those of you trying to figure out that right now, use this. It's still up to date. There's just really the only thing they've updated is the way the shipping settings do a little things a little bit different, and you can search your orders better. But screenshot this and then go to my YouTube, which is in the show notes, Draz on Whatnot. And I have on my live shows a show called Don't Sink Your Shipping. And you use this basic shipping guide that I have pinned. Watch that YouTube show and you'll be able to figure out how, as a new seller, you should have your shipping settings set. And then I will tell you that most sellers curate your shows so that what you're selling in that show is not going to screw you up on shipping. So if you have really large items, do a show where you do mostly the larger items and you don't do the reduced shipping, and you do a lot of custom shipping profiles, because a lot of those items have to be shipped separately by themselves. So that's how you kind of get around that. And then maybe you do a show where you're doing the smaller items, no problem bundling them, and you can, ship them in flat rate boxes. So if a person gets 2 1-ounce items, they would still fall in 1 to 3 ounce, not 6. Well, but the problem is if you use the generic ranges, it always goes to the higher number. So if you have a listing that you listed as 1 to 3 ounce, it's going to calculate that as a 3-ounce item. It always uses the higher number. So if you don't want it to do that, create custom shipping profiles that are actually 1 ounce. And then it only adds up the ounces as you go as 1 ounce instead of 3 ounces. Because it has no way of knowing when you use a range that that item was only 2 ounces. I don't have a problem with that because I use flat rate buyer pays max 921. And I use flat rate packaging. 98% of the time I can fit everything people buy in the flat rate packages. I don't care what it weighs. I just pack it all in flat rate packaging. On the rare occasion where they buy a ton of stuff, I unbundle it into either 2 orders that go in 2 separate flat rate packages, or more normally, I don't unbundle it. I just change it, turn flat rate off, and put in the dimensions of the box and the weight of the box and send it ground advantage. And then I use one of my 5 adjustments for that package. So yeah. So yeah, if you have things that you sell regularly, Stampin' Chick, just create custom shipping profiles. So, and you just use those over and over. So your little bling packs, 1 ounce, make a shipping profile that's called bling pack. And then and it's 1 ounce, and you use that on your bling pack listing every time. And then when they buy those, if they buy 4 of them, instead of charging them, 4 times 3, which is 12 ounces, it's only going to give them 4 ounce. And then when you ship that, it didn't overcharge them or over calculate the weight. Does that make sense? Yeah. So Cheap Girl says I do it for my fat quarters, half yard, 1 yard pieces. Yeah. So if you don't do flat rate shipping, and you want it to be more accurate, definitely set up custom profiles because it makes it much more accurate. And you can just use that same custom profile. Just name it something specific, like for Stampin' Chick, I would name it Bling Pack. And then you just use that profile on that listing every time. Yeah. All right. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I prefer to use flat rate. I have, because of what I sell, like I said, but I have had shows where I'm not selling fabric or craft items that are going to fit in flat rate packaging. And then I switch it up and I do priority and ground advantage. And you just have to really understand those 2 levels, the 1 pound and the 5 pound. And then you have to manipulate your listings to work, if you're not going to do the flat rate reduced shipping, to work with whatever you're selling so that it calculates correctly for the buyers and also doesn't screw you on the back end with trying to ship stuff. So you just have to really think it through. And if you're doing some kind of show where you're going to do custom profiles for larger items, make sure you don't have that buyer pays max filled in. You want the buyer to pay all, because you can't, it won't charge them separate shipping on a large item if you have it set for buyer pays max. Then you're going to be paying the shipping on that item that got unbundled, that ships separately. Does that make sense? So CP Finds is doing random pulls. Well, your random pull listings can still be a custom profile. So if you have random pulls, you just have to do them by weight. So, have all your items that are a certain weight set in a pile that you show, and then, whatever, because then you can have it. So either have them in a separate pile or weigh each item right as you're selling it. so that you can make sure you pick the correct listing for that weight. So it just depends, you know. Now, once you get to a point where you're selling at a high volume, all of this goes out the window anyway. You can decide time wise what makes sense for you as a seller. If you're selling so much inventory so quickly, most of those sellers sell everything under one weight, no matter how much it weighs. And then they do the buyer pays max 921, and they just figure it out on the back end, and they're willing to cover the extra shipping because they're selling enough stuff and everything's getting bid up that they are, you know, they have it built into their business model to just be able to cover the extra shipping. So just what reset at the end of the month? Fragmented artist. The adjustments, you get 5 adjustments a week. It resets Sunday at 6 p.m. You get 5 new adjustments every week, if that's what you were asking. Let's see. I was marked as 1-day shipping, but now I am marked as 2-day shipping. Is that because I mailed out in 2 days? Yes. So, and it will fluctuate. So don't get too upset if you were at 1 day and it goes to 2 day. It'll usually reset back to 1 day if if you're consistently getting your stuff out, because it calculates based on the 24 hours from the time your show ends. And then if you ship within that time, then that's a 1 day. If you go past the 24 hours before you get it shipped, that's going to be a 2 day. So, and it resets every so often as you ship. Oh, and you were asking does it reset at the end of the month? No, it resets just regularly. So just, it updates as you have shows, but it's an average. It is an average. So if you average mostly 2 day, it's going to always stay at 2 day. If you average mostly 1 day, it'll be 1 day. Is it from the time you print the label or when tracking gets scanned? It is from the time that you print the label, but if then you don't get into the post office and get tracking scanned, it will then reset to 2 day if you delay getting it into the post office. So make sure you get it in, once you get everything packed and labels printed, it shows that you've printed the labels. But then if you delay going in and getting them to the post office, or the post office doesn't scan them, that could affect your shipping time. So yeah, you do need to make sure that happens. And if you have a post office that is notorious for not scanning, print a scan sheet. So there's an option on the seller hub in your shipping area. Once you've got everything in that show shipped, you can print the scan sheet, take it to the post office, and when you drop your packages off, or if you do pickup, when the postman comes to the door, ask him to ring the bell, or put that scan sheet right there with the packages and ask him to scan it, and it scans all the packages all at once. So it's an option on your seller hub, but it only shows up once you've got all your orders. All your orders have labels. So, but you can print that scan sheet, and please do that if you are, if you take your package to the post office, instead of asking them to individually scan each package, they're going to love you so much more if you'll take that scan sheet and just have them scan that. It's a one-time scan, and it scans in all packages from that order all at once. Okay, so do that. Or like I said, if you do pickup, have that scan sheet right there with a note, please scan, and it will scan them all in. And he's happy because he doesn't have to scan them all in at the same time, or she's happy. All right, welcome, welcome. All right, I need to get going. I've been on way longer than normal, which is fine. And we will be on today on a show. Stop in if you want. Please bookmark my upcoming shows. And then I will be on tomorrow doing one of my community shows. I'll be in front of the camera, and I screenshotted some different things that we're going to go over. And so if you want to be there, have that bookmarked for tomorrow. And I will show you on the screen some of those things people wanted to see. Okay. And you are so welcome. All right. So let me go out and see who we can raid into, because I do need to get going. And let me see who's live. There's someone doing a community show that we can raid into, or we'll raid into one of my categories. Let me just see if there's someone that I know doing a community show. Let's see. Oh, so BB's Boutique is live. She won Vintage Wars the other day. So if you don't know about Vintage Wars, if you're in the vintage category, she won the Vintage Wars. She's on doing a chat show. Let's go raid her, because that could be interesting. Maybe she's talking about that. And she's an awesome seller and pretty new. She's only been on Whatnot since March. So look at her stats. She is a go-getter, you guys. If you want someone to model after, only been on since March. And look at her stats. So that's where we're going to go raid, is BB's Boutique. So here we go. Let me get that set up. And you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. And make it a great day. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. All right, here we go. Thanks, everyone.
Is it better now? Okay, good. All right. I had to connect to the Wi-Fi. It wasn't